Depression is one of the most misunderstood illnesses in the world. It hides behind smiles. It is dismissed with careless words. And for millions of people, the myths about depression hurt even more than the illness itself. Every day, people suffer in silence, not because help doesn't exist, but because beliefs, myths, and judgments tell them they shouldn't feel this way. In this first segment, we are going to talk about the most common myths about depression, why they are dangerous, and how believing them can cost lives. This lesson is not about blame, it is about truth, compassion, and understanding. Because when we understand depression better, we create a world where people feel safe enough to ask for help. What is a myth? A myth is a belief that sounds true, is repeated often, but is actually false or incomplete. Myths about depression usually come from lack of education, cultural beliefs, fear of mental illness, or misinformation passed down for generations. And when these myths are believed, people suffering from depression feel ashamed, weak, isolated, or unworthy of help. Let's break these myths, one by one. Myth 1. Depression is just sadness. This is one of the most common and most harmful myths. Many people believe depression is simply feeling sad, having a bad day, or being disappointed about life. But depression is not ordinary sadness. Sadness comes and goes. Depression stays. Depression affects sleep, appetite, energy, memory, motivation, self-worth. A person with depression may laugh, work, or smile, yet feel empty, exhausted, and hopeless inside. Why this myth is harmful? When people think depression is just sadness, they say things like, cheer up, be positive, others have it worse. This makes the person feel misunderstood, guilty, ashamed for not getting better. As a result, many stop talking about their pain. Myth 2. Strong people don't get depressed. I can't tell you, this myth hurts deeply. For those of you who have experienced this, or seen someone experienced it, can understand what I'm saying. Depression is often seen as a sign of weakness, but depression has nothing to do with strength. Some of the strongest people, including the ones we know in the society, suffer from depression. Caregivers, parents, leaders, pastors, teachers, soldiers, survivors, and most importantly, celebrities. These are people who carry others, yet silently collapse inside. Why is this myth so harmful? It teaches people to hide their pain, pretend they are fine, refuse help, and perishes in silence. Men especially suffer because they are told real men don't cry. Be strong. Handle it yourself. But silence does not heal depression. It makes it worse. Myth 3. Depression is a choice. Some believe people choose to be depressed. They think if they really wanted to change, they would. They enjoy attention. They're lazy. But depression is not a choice. No one wakes up and chooses pain, exhaustion, hopelessness, or emotional numbness. Depression involves brain chemistry, hormones, trauma, stress genetics. Just like diabetes or high blood pressure, depression is a medical condition. Why this myth is harmful? When people think depression is a choice, they judge instead of helping. They blame instead of listening. People with depression begin to believe, it's my fault, I'm broken, I don't deserve help. This self-blame can lead to dangerous thoughts. Myth 4. People with depression are lazy. Depression steals energy. Getting out of bed can feel like climbing a mountain. Simple tasks feel overwhelming. This is not laziness. This is mental exhaustion. The depressed brain works harder just to survive. Why? This myth is harmful. When society calls depressed people lazy, employers lose compassion, families lose patience, friends stop checking in. The person begins to feel useless, worthless, like a burden. This increases isolation, and isolation fuels depression. Myth 5. Depression only happens after something bad. Many people believe depression must have a clear reason: loss, failure, trauma. But depression can happen during success, during attending fame. Even when life looks perfect, well, may I remind that success does not take away depression. If it does, the rich, the famous, the powerful, celebrities, and will not have sad stories of depression that we keep seeing all over the news. It is clear that something good can be achieved, but without inner peace, it is useless and futile. Fulfillment only comes when we make others happy, says a well-known billionaire. He had all the good things, but only became fulfilled when he began looking into the problems of others. He knew he was nothing without God, his creator, and that something right deep inside of him was missing. This is also one of the ways to live above depression. Some people feel confused and ashamed because they thinking that depression only happens when something bad has happened, causes people to minimize their pain, avoid seeking help, feel guilty for being depressed. Pain does not need permission. Suffering does not require justification. Myth 6. Talking about depression makes it worse. Some believe talking about depression encourages weakness, makes people dwell on pain, or spreads negativity. But silence is far more dangerous. Talking does not cause depression, nor portrays weakness. Talking reveals it. Why is this myth is harmful? When people are told to stay quiet, they bottle emotions, they feel alone, they may reach crisis points unnoticed. One honest conversation can save a life. Myth 7. Depression means you're ungrateful or faithless. In many cultures and faith communities, depression is seen as lack of gratitude, weak faith, spiritual failure. But depression can exist alongside faith, gratitude, prayer, purpose. Many deeply spiritual people battled depression. David, Elijah, Job. Why this myth is harmful? This belief causes spiritual shame, fear of judgment, avoidance of mental health support. Faith and therapy are not enemies. They can work together. Myth 8. If someone is smiling, they're not depressed. This is a deadly myth, and one of the most deceptive. Many people wear masks. They smile to survive. They perform to avoid questions. This most happens among celebrities because they want to impress their followers, please the public, but which right deep inside of them, they are wearing out. This is called high-functioning depression. This myth is harmful because it causes us to miss warning signs, ignore quiet suffering, assume they're fine. Some of the most joyful faces hide the deepest pain. The world is so much full of people with smiley faces but depressed and sorrowful hearts. Reasons why one of the causes of depression is allowing your life to be dictated by the world, by peer groups, communities, colleagues, simply because we want to please and feared not being accepted. These myths delay treatment, increase stigma, destroy self-worth, cost lives. They create a world where people feel safer pretending than healing, but truth can change that. If you remember one thing from this video, remember this. Depression is not a weakness, it is not a choice, and no one deserves to suffer alone. Here's what you can do today. Challenge myths when you hear them. Listen without judging. Check on the quiet ones. Encourage professional help. Visit a true pastor for prayers and counseling. Share this video. It may reach someone who feels invisible. And if you are struggling, your pain is real. Your life has value. Help is not failure. It is courage. You are not broken. You are not alone. Healing is possible. And healing begins when myths end. Now this is a real story of a man called Daniel, to give you a better understanding of all what we have been discussing about. Daniel was known as the strong one, the one who always smiled, the the one people called when they needed help. He worked hard. He showed up for family. He prayed. He laughed in public. But at night, Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why his chest felt heavy for no reason. He didn't have a name for it yet. Now, remember we said that one of the myths that people have about depression is that depression is just sadness. They think depression looks like crying all day. Well, Daniel rarely cried. Instead, he felt empty, tired, disconnected. Some mornings, he woke up feeling like his soul had already used up all its strength before the day even began. He told himself, "I'm not sad, so I can't be depressed." That belief kept him silent for years. Why this myth hurt Daniel? Because he didn't feel sad enough. He believed his pain wasn't real, so he ignored it. Another myth was, strong people don't get depressed. Daniel was strong. He survived poverty. He carried responsibilities early. He never complained. Everyone said, Daniel can handle anything. So when the darkness grew heavier, he said nothing. He thought, if I admit I'm struggling, I will disappoint everyone. Why this myth hurt Daniel's strength became his prison. The stronger he looked, the lonelier he became. So there is nothing like strong people can't get depressed. Myth 3 said, depression is a choice. Some days, Daniel could barely get out of bed. Yet people said, you just need discipline. You're overthinking. Snap out of it. So Daniel tried harder. He prayed harder. He worked harder. But depression doesn't disappear through effort alone. Why this myth hurt Daniel? He began to hate himself. He thought, if I can't fix this, something must be wrong with me. Myth 4. People with depression are lazy. Daniel stopped enjoying things he once loved. Tasks felt heavy. Energy vanished. His body felt slow. Others didn't see the mental battle. They only saw missed deadlines, silence withdrawal. Why this myth hurt Daniel, instead of support. He received judgment, and judgment deepened his shame. Another myth is that depression only happens after something bad. In the case of Daniel's life, it's looked fine. He had a job, family, faith. So even he wondered, why am I like this? He felt guilty for hurting without a reason. Why this myth hurt Daniel? It convinced him his pain was invalid, so he stayed quiet. Another is, talking about depression makes it worse. Daniel almost spoke once, but he remembered people saying, don't speak negativity into your life. So he swallowed his words. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. Why this myth hurt Daniel. Silence gave depression space to grow. What was hidden became heavier. Some say depression means you're faithless or ungrateful. Well, Daniel prayed every day, but when the darkness didn't lift, he wondered, is God disappointed in me? He felt ashamed for feeling broken while still believing. This myth hurt Daniel because he thought seeking help meant failing spiritually, so he suffered alone. Another dangerous myth is, if someone is smiling, they're not depressed. Daniel smiled at gatherings. He laughed with friends. He encouraged others. No one suspected anything. One night, he whispered to himself, if I disappeared, would anyone notice? This myth almost cost Daniel his life. The turning point. One day, exhausted and numb, Daniel finally spoke. Not to everyone, just to one safe person. For the first time, someone said, what you're feeling makes sense. You're not weak. That sentence cracked the darkness. He learned depression has many faces. Healing is a process. Asking for help is courage. This myth is dangerous because they silence people like Daniel, delay healing, turn pain into shame, and sometimes turn silence into tragedy. If you are listening to this and you see yourself in Daniel, please hear this. You are not broken. You are not weak. And you are not alone. Here's what you can do today. Speak up. Even once challenge harmful myths. Check on the quiet people. Share this video. It may save a life. And if someone trusts you with their pain, listen. Believe them. Stay present. Because sometimes, one conversation is the beginning of healing. If you are learning something very important about this topic, do well to subscribe and like our page, in order not to miss any of our subsequent episodes. Signs and symptoms. People often miss about depression. What if depression didn't always look like crying? What if it didn't always look like staying in bed all day, or saying, "I feel depressed"? What if depression sometimes looked like smiling, showing up to work, laughing with friends, and saying, "I'm fine"? Our next lesson is about the signs and symptoms of depression. People often miss. The quiet ones, the hidden ones, the ones that slip past family, friends, and even the person who is suffering. Because many people don't know they are depressed, and many others know, but don't feel safe enough to say it out loud. This video might help you understand someone you love, or it might help you finally understand yourself. A quick reminder: depression is not a weakness. It is not a lack of faith. It is not laziness. It is not something you can just pray away or think away. Depression is a real condition that affects the mind, body, emotions, and spirit, and sometimes it whispers instead of screams. Now, here are the signs and symptoms of depression. 1. Constant tiredness that never goes away. One of the most missed signs of depression is deep, ongoing fatigue. Not the kind of tiredness that sleep fixes, but the kind that stays, even after resting. A person may say, "I'm always tired. I don't have energy anymore. Everything feels heavy." They may still go to work, still take care of others, but inside, every task feels like lifting a mountain. Depression drains energy because the mind is fighting silently all day. 2. Loss of interest in things they used to love. This is called anhedonia, but let's keep it simple. It means music doesn't feel the same. Hobbies feel boring. Prayer feels empty. Conversations feel like work. People often say, "I don't know what's wrong with me, I just don't care anymore." This is not laziness. This is not rebellion. This is a warning sign. When joy slowly disappears, depression may be quietly taking its place. 3. Being high-functioning but emotionally empty. Some people with depression are very productive. They go to work, meet deadlines, smile in public, take care of others, but when they are alone, they feel empty. They may think, "I have no reason to feel this way. Others have it worse, so I should be grateful." This is high-functioning depression, and it's often ignored because the person looks okay. But pain doesn't need permission to exist. 4. Irritability, anger, or short-tempered depression is not always sadness. Sometimes it looks like snapping at people, feeling easily annoyed, sudden anger, no patience. Especially in men, teenagers, and caregivers, depression often shows up as irritability, not tears. People may say, "Why are you so angry all the time?" without realizing that anger can be pain that doesn't know how to cry. 5. Changes in sleep, too much or too little. Sleep changes are a major sign people miss. Depression can cause insomnia, trouble falling or staying asleep, sleeping too much, waking up tired nightmares or restless sleep. When the mind is heavy, rest becomes difficult. And when sleep suffers, depression grows stronger, creating a painful cycle. 6. Changes in appetite or weight. Some people eat much less, others eat much more. Food may become a comfort, a distraction, or completely uninteresting. Weight changes are not about appearance. They are signals that something inside is out of balance. 7. Physical pain, with no clear medical cause. This one is very often missed. Depression can show up as headaches, back pain, chest tightness, stomach problems, body aches. When doctors find nothing wrong, people feel confused. But emotional pain doesn't stay in the mind. It often settles into the body. 8. Difficulty concentrating or making decisions. People with depression often say, "My brain feels slow. I can't focus. I forget things easily." This is not stupidity. This is not laziness. Depression affects how the brain processes information. Even small decisions can feel overwhelming. 9. Withdrawing socially, quietly. Not everyone isolates dramatically. Some people reply less, cancel plans, stop calling, sit quietly in groups. They may still show up, but emotionally, they've pulled away. Often they feel like a burden, or they don't want to explain how bad they feel. 10. Feeling like a burden to others. This is a dangerous and deeply painful thought. People may think, "Everyone would be better off without me. I cause problems. I'm too much." They may never say this out loud, but this belief can slowly push them toward hopelessness. 11. Excessive guilt or self-blame. Depression often comes with a harsh inner voice. A person may blame themselves for past mistakes, things beyond their control. Other people's problems, they replay memories over and over, punishing themselves silently. 12. Loss of meaning, purpose, or hope. This is one of the deepest signs. People may say, "What's the point? Nothing will change. I feel stuck." This doesn't always mean suicidal thoughts, but it does mean hope is fading, and hope is essential for healing. 13. Smiling depression, the mask. Some people are experts at hiding pain, especially the rich and powerful, celebrities and alike. They joke, encourage others, serve everyone, look strong, but inside, they are exhausted. Smiling depression is dangerous because people assume the person is okay, and so exert any kind of pressure on them, having no idea of what they truly are facing in private. Even the person themselves may deny their pain. Let me tell you about Martha. Martha was known as the strong one, a mother, a helper, a woman of faith. She never missed church. She never complained. She always said, "God is in control." But slowly she stopped enjoying music. Prayer felt dry. She was tired all the time. She became impatient with her children. At night, she lay awake, replaying her failures. She told herself, "I shouldn't feel like this. I'm just ungrateful." Years passed before she realized she wasn't weak. She was depressed and needed the help of God. Sometimes we try to do things by ourselves, forgetting the fact that as humans, we will always be limited, and so need a higher help than ours. And once she named it, healing finally began. Why these signs are missed? They're missed because society expects strength. Mental health is stigmatized. Pain doesn't always look dramatic. People are taught to hide, and sometimes we don't recognize depression because it doesn't look like what we were taught, what to do. If you recognize these signs, if this sounds like you are not broken. You are not alone. Help is allowed. If this sounds like someone you love, listen without judgment. Don't rush to fix. Encourage professional and spiritual supports. Stay present. If this video spoke to you, don't ignore that feeling. Depression grows in silence, but healing begins with honesty. Talk to someone. Reach out. Seek help. And if you're watching this and thinking, "This sounds like me," please know this. You matter. Your pain matters. And your story is not over. How depression affects the brain and body. This is a deep, eye-opening lesson for everybody. Depression is a real medical condition that changes the brain and affects the entire body. It can change how a person thinks, how they feel, how they sleep, how they eat, how their heart beats, how their immune system works, and sometimes it changes how long they live. Many people with depression don't even know what is happening inside them. They blame themselves. Others blame them too. So in this lesson, we are going to answer one big question. What does depression actually do to the brain and the body? By the end of this chapter, you will understand depression at a deeper level, feel more compassion for people who are struggling, and maybe understand yourself better too. Part 1. The brain, where depression begins. Depression is a brain disorder, not a character problem. The brain controls thoughts, emotions, memory, sleep hunger, energy, motivation. When depression enters the brain, all of these systems are affected. Part 2. Chemical changes in the brain. 1. Neurotransmitters, the brain's messengers. The brain uses chemicals called neurotransmitters to communicate. The most important ones linked to depression are serotonin, mood, sleep, emotional balance, dopamine, pleasure, motivation, reward, norepinephrine, energy, focus, alertness. In depression, these chemicals become low, unbalanced, or misfiring. What does this cause? Things that once felt good no longer feel good. Motivation disappears. Joy feels distant. Even simple tasks feel exhausting. This is why someone with depression may say, "I don't feel anything anymore." It's not a lie. Their brain chemistry has changed. Part 3. The prefrontal cortex. Loss of clear thinking. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain responsible for decision-making concentration, logical thinking, self-control. In depression, this area becomes less active. Effects: difficulty concentrating, trouble making decisions, forgetfulness, overthinking small things. This is why depression is often mistaken for laziness, carelessness, lack of intelligence. But in reality, the brain is working against the person. Part 4. The amygdala, emotions on overdrive. The amygdala controls fear, sadness, anger, and emotional reactions. In depression, the amygdala becomes overactive. This causes strong negative emotions, increased fear, constant worry, emotional pain that feels overwhelming. Small problems feel huge. Criticism feels crushing. Memories hurt more deeply. This is why depression feels so emotionally heavy. Part 5. The hippocampus. Memory and hope shrink. The hippocampus controls memory learning, emotional regulation. Long-term depression can actually shrink the hippocampus. Yes, depression can physically change brain structure. Effects: difficulty remembering things, trouble learning new information, feeling stuck in the past, losing hope for the future. This is why depressed people often replay painful memories again and again. Part 6. Stress hormones. The body in survival mode. Depression is closely linked to chronic stress. Cortisol, the stress hormone. When someone is depressed, the body releases too much cortisol. Over time, high cortisol damages brain cells, disrupts sleep, weakens the immune system, increases inflammation. The body stays in fight or flight mode, even when there is no danger. This is exhausting, mentally and physically. Part 7. How depression affects the body. Depression does not stop at the brain. It spreads through the entire body. 1. Chronic fatigue. Depression causes deep exhaustion, not the kind that sleep fixes. People may feel tired all day, heavy in the body, weak for no clear reason. Even getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain. 2. Sleep problems. Depression disrupts sleep cycles. People may experience insomnia. waking up very early. Sleeping too much but still feeling tired. Nightmares. Poor sleep then worsens depression, creating a painful cycle. 3. Appetite and weight. Changes depression affects hunger hormones. Some people lose appetite completely, forget to eat. Others eat too much, crave sugar and junk food. This can lead to weight loss, weight gain, shame, and low self-esteem. 4. Weakened immune system. Depression increases inflammation in the body. This can lower immunity, increase infections, slow healing. People with depression often get sick more often. 5. Heart and blood pressure problems. Depression affects the cardiovascular system. It can increase blood pressure, raise heart disease risk, affect heart rhythm. Depression is not just mental, it can affect lifespan. 6. Pain without a clear cause. Many depressed people experience headaches, back pain, muscle aches, chest pain. Medical tests may show nothing, but the pain is real, caused by changes in the nervous system. Part 8. The mind-body cycle of depression. Depression creates a vicious cycle. Brain chemistry changes, emotions worsen, body becomes exhausted, sleep breaks down, pain increases, hopelessness grows, and the person begins to believe, this is who I am now. But this is not the truth. Imagine a woman named Grace. Grace was once active, joyful, and hopeful. Slowly, she stopped enjoying things. Her body felt heavy. Her mind felt foggy. Sleep disappeared. Doctors told her, nothing is wrong. But something was wrong. Her brain and body were fighting depression. She felt guilty for being tired, ashamed for not being productive, weak for crying without reason. What Grace didn't know was, her brain chemistry had changed. Her stress hormones were flooding her body. Her nervous system was exhausted. She was not weak. She was ill, and she needed understanding and support. Part 9. The good news. The brain can heal. Here is the most important truth. The brain is changeable with therapy medication when needed, social support, faith, hope, and purpose in Christ Jesus. Healthy routines. The brain can rebuild connections, restore balance, reduce inflammation, regain joy. Healing takes time, but it is possible. If you are watching this and struggling, you are not lazy, you are not weak, you are not broken. Your brain and body are asking for help, not judgment. Depression versus anxiety, their differences, their overlap, and why so many people confuse them. Introduction. The confusion. Many people today say, I think I'm depressed. No, maybe I'm anxious. Or maybe it's both. And honestly, that confusion makes sense. Because depression and anxiety often live in the same mind, the same body, and sometimes in the same painful silence. But even though they are related, they are not the same thing. Understanding the difference can be life-changing, because the right understanding leads to the right help, the right support, and the right healing. So today, we are going to break this down slowly, clearly, and honestly. Part 1. What is depression? Let's start with depression. Depression is not just sadness, it is not laziness, and it is definitely not weakness. Depression is a mood disorder that affects how you feel, how you think, how you move, how you see yourself, how you see the future. Core feeling of depression, emptiness and hopelessness. People with depression often feel emotionally numb, drained, heavy, disconnected from life. It feels like nothing matters anymore. I don't see a future. Even good things feel pointless. How depression affects the mind. Depression pulls the mind backward. You may constantly replay past mistakes, blame yourself for everything, feel deep guilt or shame, believe you are a burden. Your thoughts slow down, Your motivation disappears. Your confidence collapses. How depression affects the body. Depression also lives in the body. Constant fatigue, sleeping too much or too little, body aches, heavy limbs, low appetite, or overeating. Even getting out of bed can feel like lifting a mountain. Real-life example. Depression. Imagine Daniel. Daniel used to enjoy music, friends, and football, but slowly, things changed. He didn't feel sad all the time. He felt nothing. He stopped replying messages, stopped caring about his appearance, stopped dreaming. When people asked, "What's wrong?" he answered, "I don't know. I'm just tired of everything." That is depression. Part 2. What is anxiety? Now let's talk about anxiety. Anxiety is also not just worry. Anxiety is a fear-based disorder that puts your body and mind in constant alert mode. Core feeling of anxiety: fear and anticipation. Anxiety pulls the mind forward. You are constantly thinking, what if something bad happens? What if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I lose control? How anxiety affects the mind. With anxiety, thoughts race. The mind jumps from one danger to another. You overthink everything, you expect the worst. You may know your fears don't make sense, but you can't stop them. How anxiety affects the body. Anxiety is very physical. Racing heart, shortness of breath, sweating, shaking tight chest, dizziness, stomach problems. Your body feels like it's in danger, even when you are safe. Real-life example. Anxiety. Meet Elma. Grace wakes up already tense. Her mind is full before the day even starts. At work, she worries about making mistakes. At home, she worries about the future. At night, she worries about not sleeping. Her body is always tight. Her mind never rests. She says, "I'm exhausted, but I can't relax." That is anxiety. Part 3. The key differences, side by side. Let's make this very clear. Depression focuses on the past, feels heavy, slow, empty, low energy, loss of interest, thoughts of worthlessness, desire to withdraw or disappear. Anxiety focuses on the future, feels tense, restless, fearful, high nervous energy, constant worry, fear of losing control, desire to escape or avoid. Simple way to remember. Depression says, "Why bother?" Anxiety says, "What if?" Part 4. Why they often overlap. Here's the truth many people don't hear. Depression and anxiety are best friends, in the worst way. They often appear together. In fact, many people have both at the same time. How anxiety can lead to depression. Living with anxiety is exhausting. Constant fear, constant tension, constant stress. Over time, the body and mind get tired, and that exhaustion can turn into depression. You may start thinking, "I'm tired of being scared. I can't keep living like this." How depression can lead to anxiety. Depression takes away confidence, energy, hope. So you start worrying, will I ever feel normal again? What if I never get better? What if people notice something is wrong with me? Now anxiety joins depression. Real-life overlap example. Meet Sarah. Sarah started with anxiety, fear of failure, fear of disappointing people. After years of stress, she became emotionally numb. She stopped caring, stopped hoping. Now she says, "I'm anxious about the future and depressed about my life." This overlap is very common and very misunderstood. Part 5. Why misunderstanding them is dangerous when people confuse depression and anxiety. They blame themselves. They get the wrong help. They feel broken. They feel alone. Some people are told, "Just relax." Others hear, "Just think positive." But mental health is not about willpower. It's about understanding, support, and care. Part 6. Can you have one without the other? Yes. Some people have only depression, low energy, emptiness, no fear. only anxiety, high fear, tension, but still motivated others have both, switching between numbness and panic. Every experience is valid. Every story matters. Part 7. Healing begins with understanding. Whether it's depression, anxiety, or both. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are human. These conditions are treatable. They are understandable. And you are not alone. Healing may include therapy medication, lifestyle changes support systems, faith, purpose, and hope, honest conversations. Now, this is the take-home message. If this video helped you understand yourself, or helped you understand someone you love, please remember this. Silence makes suffering stronger. Understanding brings light. Share this video with someone who needs clarity. Talk about mental health openly. And if you are struggling, please reach out to mental health, therapists, counselors, spiritual leaders such as pastors, apostles, prophets, and the rest. Your life has value. Your pain is real. And healing is possible, even if you can't see it yet.